Zealot, Ebionite, something to do with Christian but not Christian, because that's a Greek term, messiness. Notzrim, keepers, Notzrim, Nazarene, Notzrim means keepers. I don't know what the internal name was. To keep the covenant. To my mind, probably the best is Nazarites. A movement of perfect Nazarites. That's what the scrolls are. Perfect holy ones. Consecrated ones. Anyway, I don't know, but their enemies would have called them Sicarii if they were involved in what they considered to be murderous activities. Bin Laden's group, I'm sure, doesn't call itself thugs, murderers, assassins, terrorists. They call themselves maybe jihadists, which is holy war practitioners, or some other name like that, you know. So, you know, you have to separate these things out. And again, let's go on. So did Jesus forbid the tribute? Well, if you're a zealot, everything belongs to God, nothing belongs to Caesar. So you can hear that in a double way. Tolstoy, in his famous works, went around the Christian world as he knew it in that day. He was excommunicated by the Russian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox Church. He was saying, you know, I'm looking for a Christian, sort of like Diogenes looking for an honest man. He wanted to know when the stricture, turning the other cheek, or not to fight, and so on and so forth, was bypassed. And how come Christian priests in his day blessed armies? And he went around looking, talking to people, and they all said, oh, that was solved long ago, that was solved long ago. We already dealt with that issue. But as far as he could look, he says in some of his writings, he never could find when this issue was ever regulated and why it's considered, you know, in Russia and other places at that time, all right to do. Many of these things are the same. You know, people say, oh, that was sorted out one time. No, it was never sorted out. It was never sorted out. None of these things have ever been sorted out. Okay, let's get moving here. So Pilate usually wasn't up in Jerusalem anyway. He was usually down in Caesarea. Maybe he came up for some administrative purposes. He asks him, line 11 of Matthew, are you the king of the Jews? Jesus is wise guy here. You have said it. You can't talk to a governor like that without being bashed in the mouth, probably. Here there may be some bashing going on, but it's not portrayed that way because this is basically pro-Roman presentation. Pilate is presented as fairly good. The high priests are presented, because they're supposed to be Jews, as fairly bad. I wouldn't accept either of the presentations. But if anyone would be bashing people in the mouth, it would be Pilate, because he's known for extreme brutality. Instead, the governor marveled greatly at some of the things Jesus said. Line 13, Matthew. Mark 15:5 echoes that. Now, on the other hand, for John 18:35, Jesus is very loquacious, can hardly keep him quiet. Here, one thing he doesn't speak, like Socrates. In John, he explained things. My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, I would let my servants fight, that I should not be delivered to the Jews. There, John gives his orientation again. This is certainly Alexandrian Greek. Jesus wouldn't say, I would not be delivered to the Americans, you know, and so on. just turn it around and see how you would receive that from one of your heroes. Martin Luther King, I would not be delivered to the Americans. No, I don't think that can be considered Palestinian. There was another section that I missed somewhere, and I don't know where it is. But at one point, Jesus is asked earlier on, and I think it's Luke, could be John, could be Mark even, but one of those three, not Matthew. He's being questioned as to why he's the Messiah, and then the crowd says, we thought the Messiah had to come from Bethlehem in Judea. And so the crowd doesn't know that Jesus is born in Bethlehem in that particular gospel. That's another interesting little exchange to try to weigh when you're dealing with the historical Jesus. Why doesn't the crowd in that particular gospel know that Jesus was born in Bethlehem? Okay. So if we look here now, John, art thou the King of the Jews? Here Matthew agrees with him, and so does Mark and the other synoptics. In Luke 23:4, Pilate says, I find no fault in this man, arguing with, it was the chief priests now who are the guilty ones. Pilate, the most brutal governor who executed the Taheb in Samaria, who put his thugs among the crowd when they begged him not to bring the standards into Jerusalem, and out of signal clubbed the whole crowd to death when they were on their knees asking him and Josephus to please not do that. And Pilate, who Philo says in his mission to Gaius was removed because he was the most brutal governor in Palestine, and that rarely happens to any of the governors. Here Pilate marvels about Jesus and finds no fault in the man. But now it's the priests who are worked up. Why would the priests be all worked up? He stirred the people, teaching throughout Judea and Galilee, even unto this place. And talking about being a Galilean, Luke 23:6. So now Luke, the know-it-all, has an intervening interview now, because he knows, he's read as Josephus, that Galilee was Herod Antipas's tetrarchy. So now he has an intervening interview by the Herodian, this one responsible for the death of John the Baptist. He calls him Herod, but it's Herod Antipas. He sends for him, very clever, because he knows that, but also Pareo, I'll keep it a quarter up, also